Hello everyone, welcome to my talk. My name is Kyriakidou, and people call me Lucy. And I have been a freelance 2D games artist in games for over a decade now. My latest role was as lead character designer on Battletoads. I hope some of you have played it and enjoyed it. Today I'm coming to you from Greece. I'm usually based in the UK, so the backdrop is a bit unexpected for me. But bear with and enjoy the sunny weather. Today I'm here to talk to you about character design and some tips and advice I've kind of learned throughout the years or I had to develop to make the process go smoothly and, well, most importantly, more productively for myself and the whole team. The first mini tip that I will give you, this one's free, is to never assume knowledge. So I thought some of these may look obvious, but it's good to kind of highlight them because not everybody has 10 years experience in this. So I thought it may be helpful to some, and it's good to kind of start and get ahead a bit by having some knowledge by somebody who has done this. But my first actual tip is something you probably hear about a lot in games, and it is to fail quickly. I've kind of structured my talk from beginning of character design, the process. So I'm starting with like sketches and very rough, and that's basically what the beginning kind of should be. You need to keep it rough and keep it very quick. I've found a lot of artists are very precious about their work, but in this, you kind of need to work through a lot. So when you have no idea what you're designing first, when you just have a brief, it's important to kind of make sure you produce a lot of options for people and explore a lot of ideas around that. So you do come to the best result possible. I always start with silhouettes and a lot of sketches. I keep it very rough. So when it may not seem like that important to like take 20 minutes on one design that you're going to present in the initial stage, but when you have to do, or when you should be doing 20, 30, 100, it really adds up. 20 minutes each, and out of all of those, probably one of them is going to get picked. So all that time that you spend making things pretty is kind of wasted, and it doesn't matter because sometimes people will just immediately decide that something doesn't work, like look at it for a second. So your 20 minutes literally meant nothing in the process. So yeah, keep it quick, keep it very rough. But on the other hand, do be critical about what you present. I have found that if you present everything you've created, more times than not, and I'm sure everybody says that, people will pick the thing you don't like and you're stuck with that. Use your character design experience, use your artist kind of reference to understand if something should not be presented, if it's not working. Like if you think it's not working, there's probably a reason. So yeah, don't present it. My second tip is to never skip research. I always have like Google tabs open, or I go out, whatever, books. Do look for reference around you outside of video games. And I know this is another one, like this big one that may sound very obvious as a tip, but as artists, it's very exciting, like the beginning of a project, and you really want to get into it and start drawing, but you really need to build that visual library for yourself in order to make designs that work, in order to make informed designs, and kind of have that reference so you're not stuck in what you think something looks like, or what somebody looks like. The truth is we don't know best, so don't assume that you do. My Google search history is really weird because of things I've had to Google through the ages. Try to keep it broad and explore things maybe that you didn't think. All right. For example, if you're looking for a soldier, like you're trying to design a soldier, don't just Google soldier and expect to find the next big design. Like look at history, look at books, like how are soldiers presented or people who fight presented, and also like put your own spin on it. Don't be afraid to, go the other way, present some other options. Where you ask for a male, don't make them a male. Like present some options. What if they weren't though? The brief is great, but don't be boxed in order to make it work. Please, like, be free. Like that's what you're there. That's what you're there for. My next thing, the next thing I think about, next tip, I guess, when I design characters is a lot more practical and technical. There are a lot of things that you need to think about when designing a character because your characters are not going to live in a bubble. They're in the context of a game. And there are a lot of different things you need to keep in mind. Don't go back and design in your own space. To speak to the team, speak to the people you need to, designers, the animators, in order to get the best idea of what is expected and what the character is going to do. A huge thing is that you need to keep in mind is how big will the character be on the screen. That's always a big one for me because that changes everything. Obviously, the bigger the character is, the more details you can add, and you can really spend the time to do that. However, if they're going to be this big on the screen, you need to make sure the silhouette is strong. And they're going to be seen from far away, like adding a lot of like facial features, making that pretty face, or adding that top lip scar will not matter if they're this big. And at the end of the day, all the details that you add to make them recognizable are just not going to be visible. So yeah, do keep in mind how big your character is going to be on the screen. Or if that changes, do think of the parameters and how that affects the way you design. Do you need to think about a smaller one, a smaller version, like a simplified version, and a bigger one? Talk to everyone, talk to the team to figure those things out. Another big question is the angles your character is going to be seen from. So, we get caught up in doing the front. Nobody just starts designing a character from the back. But the truth is, in a lot of games, you do see the character from the back a lot. So you need to create visual interest in where the character, where the player is going to be looking at for most of the game, if not all of the game. You need to make sure all the important information is where somebody can see, what the players can see again. So creating a symbol that your character, it's the insignia of your character, and putting it at the front means nobody will see it at the back if you need them to see it, and if you need them to keep looking at it or referring back to it throughout the game. So think about those things. Also think about the kind of limitations later on in the process. It'll be great to create a very complicated character, but does that character, will they have to be modeled in 3D or animated, and will that work? Do your riggers, are they going to have the worst time of their life trying to figure out what you have created, like this monstrosity? you've put together. Or it could be little things like design decisions. Maybe the character has to jump a lot in the game, so do the legs allow for that? If they have to reach up of a certain, like in a certain height, in design have figured out that this height that the character should be reaching up at, you need to make sure your design allows for that, and it will keep you from having to reiterate later on in the process. I found the more you go back to design to fix it, the more you mess it up, and things get muddled. You may have started with a great silhouette and then you have to make a lot of changes and that doesn't work. And the whole thing is kind of void. All this hard work that you've put in thinking about everything else and just not little things. So do try to think about all the parameters that you'll be working in and your character is going to be affected by. My next tip, as you go on, you have drawn all your beautiful thumbnails, you have thought about everything, and the time comes to pick designs, or like a handful of designs to move ahead with. A lot of people will tell you, people who know me, a pet peeve of mine is characters with a lot of clutter on them. I think it's easy to kind of get ahead of yourself and just like start adding fun things to your character, but your character is there to kind of serve a purpose, serve the story. So adding a lot of things to them, does it make sense? I remember seeing a talk, I'm trying to think of who it was, but they were showing the character design and they had these amazing, beautiful, complicated things, and then they ended up with quite a simple one because it served the story. So don't think that adding a lot of things is a necessity. Don't feel like you're cheating if you're going for something simpler just because you need to do what's best for the project. And sometimes keeping it minimal may be the best for that. Think about iconic designs. Sorry. Think about iconic designs like Mario. If you think about it, it's just a guy with a mustache and overalls. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to add a lot of things, unless your game, of course, kind of calls for these things. And you do need the designs. You do need a lot of information on them. But what drives character design more than anything is storytelling, and that should be what you should be keeping in mind when picking things, when adding those details. Having said that, on the other hand, do think of ways to kind of add personality to what you create as well. I always like to think of little stories, even if it's like enemies that will just be seen and get punched. I always have little stories for them, even if it's just I create something and I think, what if they have little backpacks with things they keep inside? I don't know, like little scrolls. Do think about those unexpected details that you can add to kind of create this interest, so the characters do ask questions, do think, oh, that's cute, like I wonder what they're doing there. Because again, it is about storytelling. So don't just take what is there, the story that is there, but do try to create these little kind of Easter eggs of interest and story for who you create. It will also make the process much easier for yourself as well. You will have something to work towards, and for me it's very inspiring, and it kind of keeps me going, and it kind of puts me on the right track on what to add or what to take away from the character. Like, what is their setting? So what can I do with that? Like, who are they in this world? Yeah, those are my tips for creating these characters. But at the end, when you do end up with the final design, I think it's important to know, again, what your character, like your character's place in the world. And somebody, like, it's games and, game development, character design, it's not a solo sport. Somebody's going to have to probably animate that or model it. So try to make their life easier by creating those guides, having like exploration of movement, but also personality. Not just run, like how does your character run, but like how does your character react to something unexpected? Like what is the like shock, or I don't know, maybe they're just unfazed by it. So try to add these little details of character in your character design later on, but that will also be useful to everybody else who uses it, that design, in order to get on with the work. So creating those guides, and you need that way you also make sure that your design is used the way you intend it to. So maybe you have created this character with a beautiful cape, but nothing is done with it unless you say, oh, when they run, the cape moves like this, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's a hood, and when they run, it flows away like a cape, and then we use it as a hood later on. Just explain what you have created visually for everybody else, so they can see what is in your head. My last tip is, colors is something I'm not a huge fan of, but it's a necessity. I generally enjoy the rougher side of the process, but it's really nice to kind of add those last touches of mood and character with colors. My big tip for that would be to just make sure your character stands out against the background, against the environments that are created or are being created, or keep that in mind when the environments are created. On Battletoads, for example, you see like the whole game was very colourful, so we did need to consider our options when it came to colours and how the characters were going to stand out. Whoop. Grease, sun. To explore our options when it came to colours, and what we can use in order to make sure you see the characters and they do appear on screen. They are visible when they appear on screen. And I guess that should be the end of it. You've designed your character, you've coloured them. Well done. And hopefully they live in the world seamlessly. I guess that's the right word. I'm going to make a minor adjustment to kind of go through our design tips again. So, 1, fill quickly. 2, never skip research. 3, explore the unexpected. 4, work in context. And 5, think about limitations of your game and your world. And 6, I don't have enough hands for that. It's cool. We'll start again. 6, storytelling is key. 7, explore movement and personality. And 8, make them stand out. Because at the end of the day, you're creating something new, something exciting, so make sure it stands out. And those are my character design tips. I hope you enjoyed it and you have a great day. Thank you so much for having me. See ya.